On a frozen mountain in the Soviet Union, 9 experienced hikers walked into the darkness, and were never seen alive again. What happened that night would puzzle investigators, terrify rescuers, and haunt history for decades. In February 1959, their journey ended abruptly, without a single clear explanation. No struggle. No survivors, just silence. When search teams finally arrived weeks later, they found clues that made no sense at all: an abandoned tent, torn from the inside, footprints leading into deadly cold, and bodies scattered across the snow. From that moment, the Dyatlov Pass Incident became more than a tragedy. It became a mystery that refused to die. The 9 hikers were not reckless thrill seekers or untrained adventurers. They were young students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, an experienced and respected trek leader. Most were in their early 20s, skilled in skiing, navigation, and survival in extreme winter conditions. Several had survived previous expeditions in harsher terrain. This trip was meant to earn them the highest hiking certification in the Soviet Union. They trusted one another completely. These were disciplined, intelligent people who understood the mountains, and that's exactly what makes their sudden panic and fatal decisions so disturbing. In late January 1959, the group set out by train toward the northern Ural Mountains, a remote and unforgiving region known to locals as Dead Mountain. Spirits were high as they documented the trip with photos, diaries, and jokes along the way. The weather worsened as they traveled deeper into the wilderness, with heavy snow and brutal winds slowing their progress. One hiker turned back due to illness, leaving 9 to continue. Their route led them far from civilization, where rescue would be nearly impossible. It was the last time they would move forward together, unaware of what awaited them ahead. Among the belongings recovered months later was a roll of undeveloped film. When investigators examined the final photograph, it raised more questions than answers. The image was dark, blurred, and unsettling, possibly taken at night, showing a faint light or figure against the snow. Some believe it captured a harmless moment during the hike. Others think it recorded something unexpected, even frightening. There was no caption, no explanation, and no chance to ask the photographer what they saw. This final image became a silent witness, frozen in time, marking the last known moment before everything went terribly wrong. When search teams finally located the hikers' campsite, what they found was deeply unsettling. The tent stood abandoned on an exposed mountainside, partially collapsed and dusted with snow, but the most disturbing detail was how it had been left. The tent was slashed open from the inside, as if the hikers had fled in a sudden panic. Boots, coats, food, and equipment were still inside, neatly arranged in sub-zero temperatures. Leaving shelter without proper clothing would have been a death sentence. Whatever forced them out happened fast, felt urgent, and made staying inside seem more dangerous than the freezing night outside. Below the abandoned tent, investigators discovered something chillingly calm. A trail of footprints led away from the campsite and down the slope toward a forest. The prints showed no signs of running, fighting, or chaos, just steady steps into the freezing darkness. Some footprints were made by bare feet or socks, others by mismatched shoes. Temperatures that night dropped far below -30°C. Following those tracks meant walking directly into lethal cold, with no shelter in sight. The footprints ended near the tree line, where the first bodies would later be found, marking a quiet, deliberate path toward death that defied all logic. The first bodies were discovered weeks later, scattered between the forest and the campsite. 2 hikers lay beneath a tall cedar tree, barefoot and wearing only underwear, their skin marked by burns and broken branches above them. Others were found collapsed along the path back toward the tent, as if trying to return for safety. Their expressions were frozen in place by the cold. Official reports listed hypothermia as the cause of death for some, but the scene told a more disturbing story. These were not people who calmly accepted death, they were people who fought it, step by step, until their bodies could no longer move. As more bodies were recovered months later, the mystery deepened. Several hikers suffered severe internal injuries, crushed ribs, shattered skulls, massive chest trauma, yet their skin showed little to no external damage. Doctors compared the force to that of a car crash, not a fall or fight. No signs of struggle were found. No weapons. No clear source of impact. One hiker had a fractured skull, another's ribs were pushed inward, damaging vital organs. These injuries occurred before death, not after. Something extremely powerful had struck them, but whatever caused it left no visible attacker, no obvious explanation, and no trace of how such force was delivered on a quiet, frozen mountain. One discovery shocked investigators more than any other. One female hiker was found missing her tongue, along with parts of her lips and eyes. The tissue damage was precise, not torn, and there was no sign of a violent struggle nearby. This led to disturbing speculation. Some believed animals were responsible, though others questioned why only specific parts were affected. The official report offered no clear explanation. In a case already filled with unanswered questions, this detail stood out as deeply unsettling. Whether caused by nature, time, or something else entirely, the missing tongue became one of the most haunting symbols of the Dyatlov Pass mystery. As investigators examined the hiker's belongings, another disturbing detail emerged. Several pieces of clothing showed unusually high levels of radiation. This discovery was never fully explained and immediately fueled suspicion. Some of the hikers had worked in facilities connected to the Soviet nuclear industry, raising questions about possible contamination before the trip. Others wondered whether secret military tests were conducted in the region that night. The official investigation downplayed the findings, offering no clear source for the radiation in the context of the Cold War. This detail transformed the tragedy from a natural disaster into something far more ominous, suggesting that forces beyond the mountain itself may have played a role. The Soviet investigation into the Dyatlov Pass deaths moved quickly and quietly. Authorities sealed off the area, restricted information, and classified key documents for decades. The final report concluded that the hikers died due to a compelling natural force, a vague explanation that satisfied no one. Critical details were ignored, witnesses were dismissed, and families were given few answers. In a state that valued secrecy over transparency, questions became liabilities. The case was officially closed without clarity, leaving behind gaps too large to ignore. This lack of openness ensured that the Dyatlov Pass incident would never truly be resolved, only buried under paperwork and silence. One of the most widely accepted explanations is the avalanche theory. According to this idea, a delayed slab avalanche struck the hikers' tent during the night, forcing them to cut their way out and flee downhill in panic. Supporters argue this explains the sudden escape, the abandoned gear, and the deadly injuries caused by immense pressure. Modern simulations have even suggested such an avalanche was possible under rare conditions, yet critics remain unconvinced. The slope angle, lack of obvious avalanche debris, and the orderly footprints raise doubts, suggesting that if an avalanche occurred, it may not explain everything that followed. Another theory points toward secret Soviet military activity. At the time, the Ural Mountains were used for classified weapons tests, including parachute mines and experimental explosives. Witnesses later reported seeing strange glowing orbs in the sky during the same period the hikers died. Some believe a nearby test could have produced shockwaves powerful enough to cause internal injuries without external wounds, explaining the broken bones. The radiation found on some clothing only deepened suspicion. However, no official records confirm a test that night, leaving this theory trapped between Cold War secrecy and unanswered questions. Over the decades, experts have tried to strip the mystery down to nature itself. Extreme winds, sudden temperature drops, infrasound, and rare slab avalanches are now seen as possible explanations. These forces can trigger panic, confusion, and irrational decisions, even in experienced hikers. Some scientists argue the injuries and behavior fit a deadly chain of natural events. Yet skeptics point out the missing soft tissue, the radiation, and the hikers' strange movements into the cold when science explains some details but not all. Doubt creeps back in, and the mystery refuses to rest. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass incident still refuses to fade into history. It haunts us because it sits at the edge of what we think we understand, where logic meets fear, and evidence meets silence. Every theory explains something, but none explain everything. The unanswered questions keep pulling us back, the choices they made, the terror they may have felt, and the truth buried beneath the snow. Perhaps the mystery survives because it reminds us how fragile certainty is, especially when nature and secrecy collide. If you want more deep, haunting documentaries like this, subscribe for more stories that history never fully explained.